spending all of your working hours honing and fine-tuning the skill of holding space for others and being empathetic, there's another side to that coin. And a lot of us walk through life feeling very hurt and very disappointed because we have been holding massive space for all kinds of people. And in the moments where we go, hey, this is a friend of mine, I'd like them to hold some safe space for me. I'd like them to know that when they have an outburst, that it's on them to turn around and say, I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that. That was me having a hard time managing what I need to manage for me. I'm sorry that you got in the line of my fire. So I think there's a deep disappointment that we can feel as helpers and healers because there's been such an imbalance, frankly. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Call-In Show. This is Emotional Badass, where Moxie meets Mindful. I'm your host, Nikki Eisenhower, life coach and psychotherapist. And on today's episode, I am chatting with Roma to talk about discernment and seeing the good in people. Light and love, and on to the show. I am here today with Roma, so I want to welcome her to the show. Welcome, Roma.
Thank you, Nikki. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. So tell me a little bit, tell me why you're calling in. What can I help you with today?
So one of my IFS protectors, internal family systems, I've named this part of me a red flag eraser. And what this does is it allows me to have folks fill a role that I need or long for, even if they're not the right fit. This absolutely comes from trauma in the past. My father died when I was 4. My mother became an alcoholic. I was a parentified child, very young, from the age of 4. So this protective self helped me keep relationships intact and put a positive spin on my pain because I needed to survive. But it also has helped my career. So I have 10 years of being a psychiatric social worker. So I needed a lot of empathy, a lot of loyalty to my patients. And more recently, I've become a certified Gallup skills trainer and coach. And for your listeners that are not familiar, it's a skills-based, strength-based coaching style that uses a client's natural talents to help them meet goals and kind of, get what they want out of certain situations. But during that certification, I learned that my top 3 talents are positivity, empathy, and developer. So I'm just naturally am positive. I naturally have a lot of empathy for people. I naturally want to fix people, and I have that loyalty. So this protective self is sometimes a superpower and sometimes a kryptonite. So my question for you is, how do I keep it when it's helpful, and how do I work against my natural talents when actually it's hurtful and I need to be more self-loyal?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So that's a huge question. I think anybody that, first off, is born having more empathy, more sort of natural emotional intelligence and affinity, and then goes into a helping, healing profession. I mean, the amount of output that you're doing, right? The amount of every day, all day long, how much you're practicing, seeing the good, seeing the potential, helping someone get to where they can be and leave discomfort, dysfunction. It's so much output for you. It's quite the thing to start realizing, oh, wait a minute, I have to give a lot more of that to me. And these things that are so good, so loving, so empathic can also sort of backfire for me because what I think I'm hearing you say is sometimes my good, open, healthy, warm, wide opened heart and the potential that I can see in people blocks me from discerning who is healthy for me. Is that what I'm hearing in your question?
Yeah, for sure. I can give you an example.
Okay.
Obviously, it could be relationships, romantic relationships, but a current one is like a coworker. This one woman I work with, her and I vibe really well. We love to do, system design and evaluate processes, and we really can just get really nerdy and techy. And I vibe really well with her. But she has some emotional outbursts that are hurtful and has said really hurtful things when in such a state. And what I want to do is just keeping like, I appreciate you and you are so valuable to the team and let's work together through this. But at some point, I'm just allowing those behaviors to continue because she continues to have those behaviors. And though I really see great potential in our friendship, she just can't meet me where I'm at in having an actual genuine relationship that's not task-based and, goal-based when it comes to work. But I want to have that relationship with her because I think she's cool and I want to have that as a friend. And it's obviously highlighting that I have this need for a female friendship, that to have this kind of vibe with someone that can, work with me in this way, but she's not it, right? So at what point do I continue to try? And at what point do I say, this is where she's at in her recovery or her own mental health, and I just need to leave her where she's at?
Okay. I'm going to answer that question before we end this call. You do similar work to what I do. Like, and all therapists, social workers, we're all similar and wildly different, right? We're in different environments, different populations, different amounts of output, different skills, different affinities, all of that. But there's a similarity in output. And you're naming one of my beefs with mental health as a profession in general. That part of we always go back and look back at how our childhoods are impacting the present moment, right? But I think for helpers and healers, we don't have it as part of the sort of normal conversation, that we also need to look at what did our profession sort of set us up for and not teach us about. And I think if our professional training programs had more integrity and more care for us as they teach us how to care for other people, I think that's a big missing piece, that we're not taught how to care for ourselves. I think if there was more of that in our original trainings and programs, we would hear things before we were ever working with the population like, hey, the more that you grow in this field and self-develop, the more it makes you different than people that are out there in the general population. Being an awakened person, spending all of your working hours honing and fine-tuning the skill of holding space for others and being empathetic, there's another side to that coin. And a lot of us walk through life feeling very hurt and very disappointed because we have been holding massive space for all kinds of people. And in the moments where we go, hey, this is a friend of mine, I'd like them to hold some safe space for me. I'd like them to know that when they have an outburst, that it's on them to turn around and say, I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that. That was me having a hard time managing what I need to manage for me. I'm sorry that you got in the line of my fire.
Mhm.
So I think there's a deep disappointment that we can feel as helpers and healers because there's been such an imbalance, frankly, of output versus input, on top of we sort of stumble into this awareness instead of our programs really preparing us for this from the beginning. What do you think about what you're hearing me say so far?
I agree. I mean, the countertransference that comes with clients is huge, and especially when you're trying and your job is to help this individual and you genuinely want to help that individual. And I think it's hard to shut that off when I'm then looking at my personal relationships, right? My relationship with
Mm-hmm.
my husband, my relationship with my mother, a coworker. I go in with the emotional patience that I have for my clients, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe I don't need such depth to that type of emotional patience.
Yes. Yes.
But
That
also,
there's
I love my family more. Sorry to interrupt you, but I
a,
love my family more than my patients. So maybe they should get more patience. And this is where I start getting all twisted up.
it's a spot that might get very twisty and might take a lot of intention moment to moment from you, especially at first. So there's a fine line, right? It's like on the one hand, using our skills, our listening skills, our space holding skills, all the rapport building, patience, all the skills that we cultivate as helpers and healers, using that with our friend groups, our family groups, our loved ones, there's a wisdom to that. I mean, why would we learn all this stuff and not apply that wisdom and like drop that wisdom at the door when we go home? But there's also that nuanced fine line of we also can't therapize our own partners, our own family members. So I think
Yeah.
the reality there is that that's going to be a question that we have to honor inside of us maybe all the days of our lives, and know
Mhm.
that there isn't a formula where we can sort of decide, okay, I'm going to do this much at work and I'm going to do this much at home. And
Yeah.
There we go. That's the formula. I don't have to think about this again. I think situation to situation, season to season, we have to
Mhm.
really evaluate this. And I think one of the things that we can do as helpers or healers is be more honest and transparent with our support system. Like I know
Mhm.
even with my own husband, one of the things that has come up for us is, hey, I listen to people all day. I ask questions of other people all day. There was a therapist in our lives that named it that therapists probably have the love language of being asked their own questions because we hold so much space for asking other people questions. So it's been something in my marriage for my husband to understand like, I want to be asked with some of the nuance that I hold for other people, which means him learning some skills that he didn't learn going through my counseling program that the average person doesn't learn unless listening and space holding is a passion or a part of your profession. So I think as therapists, as social workers, as healers, we can look at people in our lives and say, you know what? I hold a lot of space for other people, and I think I'm asking you to hold space for me. And maybe you know how to do that, and maybe you don't. Are you open or willing to learning some skills for me? And I think we have to be very honest with ourselves in that moment. I've been married 3 times. The truth is, I've had 2 husbands that would not have done that for me, didn't want to do that, were too dysfunctional to know that that's a loving, healthy, meeting someone halfway in a relationship. But I have a husband now that has so much willingness to meet me halfway in anything that the part of our agreement is that we will learn whatever the other needs for the other. I think we can do better about owning that sort of in the light of day. Like that's not a dirty secret. And I think we can communicate that to our loved ones. And then from that moment, we have to decide, like you mentioned, your mother. You have to be very real with yourself through all the skills you've developed. Can she hold the kind of space for me that I want? Can that coworker at work? Does she want to? Does she have the type of self reflection that makes growth possible? I think we have to be very honest with ourselves. You asked the question originally by asking, how do I keep this superpower of seeing the good? I think it's an and, not an or. I think it's you allowing yourself to have great permission, to have amazing discernment. And when we grow up in the dynamics you described, sometimes we grow up to think that discernment is mean, that discernment is like not looking at the loveliness in a human being instead of a permission to say, you know what? I need to be very discerning. I am an
Mhm.
awakened person, and that is rare in this life. I can hold space for lots of people, and I have to be very real with myself that not a lot of other people can hold space for me. So I think we're honest with ourselves about what's really available that there based on evidence. Like I could hear you getting there with your coworker. Like you didn't use these words, but what I took from your language was I'm very much working with the heartbreaking acceptance that she can't meet me where I'd like her to.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think the word discernment really resonates
Yep.
because I'm one of my my trauma responses, some folks go through trauma and they are closed up. I'm one that's like, hey, you want to know all my secrets? Here they are, because I genuinely
Yeah.
think I'm a good person and I genuinely feel very deeply that I'm like, oh, sure, if you knew with X, Y, and Z, you wouldn't hurt me. You would see me as a good person too. And we can skip off into the sunset holding hands, right? So,
Hold on. Do you hear the loveliness in that? Do you hear the innocence and the inner child? The sort of
yeah.
golden like light of that?
Hmm.
One of the things I'm most excited about for 2025 is that I have made my first physical, tangible product. It is my Patternscapes deck. It is a mindfulness and meditation deck that, just like my work, just like you've come to know of me, I give you actionable things for you to do the emotional strength training that will bring you to the internal integration and the emotional strength training that helps you feel more secure, more grounded, more peaceful, lighter, and easier. The deck contains 50 cards and a 70-page workbook, so you can dive just as deeply as you'd like. Feedback from Patternscapes has been that it is me in a box, that people have been shocked at how impactful this deck is to their lives. I've even had someone say, wow, this is finally key to me quitting smoking cigarettes. If you would like a tangible that you can take out and hold when you are having a struggle, when you are strength training, this is it. Come to getpatternscapes.com or go to emotionalbadass.com to order yours today. Shipping is free, and if you want 2 or 3 to give as gifts, we have significant discounts for you. Light and love, and I hope you all continue to have fun with Patternscapes. I've had to deal with that in myself, so this is a real, you spot it, you got it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you grow up in a family that has really tough dynamics and you lost a parent very young,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's an innocence in us that tries to connect with other people's innocence. And then when someone lashes out or doesn't sort of hold us in the preciousness that we know how to hold other people, we feel very confused and very hurt. And I think a lot of us try to shut that part off, to say, no, that part is bad. I need to stop that. That's the part that gets me hurt. I don't advise that, but I do advise giving radical permission to practice a lot of discernment here. That's not a part of you. It's not a part of me that I want to go to the back of who I am. But I want to be able to tap in my wisest part, my wisest, most grounded part, to take care of that young, innocent part of me that loves to meet people. It's still true of me today. I love to meet people through that innocence. It's not that I want to turn that off in me. It's that I want to have an and. It's like
Mm-hmm.
improv. Yes, and. It's like, okay, that part of me likes to meet people through my innocence. Okay, yes, and just like any child out in the world who's little and young and vulnerable, I want an adult right there sort of supervising, right? We get to supervise this for ourselves. So I want to tap in my wise woman to see my inner child in that moment and say, yes, sweet little Nikki. Yes, sweet little Roma. It's okay to meet people like that. And the grown up part of us gets to have some real discernment. And we get to see this person in their full form. And we get to know that a hard truth is that it's probably going to be very rare that someone has spent as much headspace and heart space in this type of awakening.
Feels lonely.
Yeah, it is lonely. It is lonely. And I think there's a lot of advice out there that just sort of has a pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Just go out there and meet more people and keep meeting people and keep meeting people. There's a wisdom to that. There's a time and a place for that. But I think in the nuance of the question that you're asking, there's also sitting back and validating and acknowledging how hard this is, how sad this is, how unprepared for this our programs let us be by not naming this as almost a certainty of what will happen if we're good at our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking or feeling?
I I am feeling that, that part of me that genuinely can feel things deeply and has compassion for other people and wants to really just, go right to the emotional source of things is a really strong and important part of me, and I don't want to shut that off.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm learning that not everyone gets to see that part if they're not going to meet me with the same level of depth or at least respect, right? So even if
Yes.
I share that and someone respects it but can't get to that depth, that's different than someone that continues to be hurtful or abusive
Yes.
after I share that depth.
Yes. Yes. And frankly, with what you're saying, you're probably looking for people that have a very strong maturity. And anybody like in your coworker that lashes out like that, like we all lash out sometimes, right?
Mhm.
It's not about never lashing out. It's about what do we do to repair after that? How do we own that? And I
Mhm.
think you're looking for people who can look at you and say, I'm sorry. that you had to witness that was frustration I was having. That wasn't frustration that should have been directed at you. And I think it's a very heartbreaking discernment to be a very mature soul and look out at the population and have to realize, oh my goodness, we're having a real immaturity problem in the population.
Yeah, so just to reflect back in summary, this protector part of me that, tries to ignore red flags and kind of
Mm-hmm.
just tries to stay positive and help people. I could always have that awareness, but it's my discernment on acting on seeing the whole picture and how much I expose myself to this individual is where I get to have my agency. It's where I get to have my decisions.
Yes. And remember too, like while those counseling rapport building skills are really great therapeutically for the other person when you're
Mhm.
having a session, they may backfire a little bit in real life
Mhm.
because the truth is a therapeutic training is also a training in holding yourself back,
Mhm.
being
It's
very,
true.
very directional or intentional with what you say and what you don't say. And when we're doing that with a client, we're holding space for them. And so if they lash out, if they're nasty, like we are holding space for that. It needs to be different in our personal lives.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to say something that might sound weird, but I'm saying it from an intuitive place. I want to encourage you to to trust when you need to say something in the moment. And that might be different than what you would do in session with someone. But if I'm picturing a coworker lash out at you, I would want to encourage you to say something like, "Hey, do you realize you just lashed out at me?" Or I have a lot of patience, but I really don't like when you lash out at me like this and it's turning into a pattern. Have you noticed that? Like you get to be protective of you
Mhm.
out in the world. You hold that therapeutic space when someone, your job, or that person is paying you to hold that space because there is a
Mhm.
cost to that for you.
Yeah.
It costs energy, massive energy. And so I want to just highlight you not making yourself work when you're not
Mhm.
working. Does that make sense the way that I'm saying it?
Yeah, yeah. And I think prior to my clinical training, I was taught how to do this in my family, right? To put myself aside to be
Yep.
my mother's mother when I was 4 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
So part of this is kind of undoing that as well and kind of
Mm-hmm.
going back and healing those initial, you know, trainings that I've gotten, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm. And there's healing historically, sort of mentally, but there's also developing the muscles
Mhm.
that will help you now. And the muscle that I want to encourage in you is speaking matter of factly when you're not in session.
Yeah.
That's where you can use your observational skills and you can use skills of not taking it personally, but you get to name what's going on and what's affecting you in the moment different than you would in a session with somebody.
And then also comfort myself because it does mean that if I'm allowing people or I'm having the discernment that certain people shouldn't be in certain roles,
Yes.
that there might be some loneliness in there. There might be some
Yes.
loss of relationships. And I think that's what was always hard for me in the personal world is I just wanted to have that relationship. And I felt very scared to not have, as a child, all I had left was my mother. So I had to
That's right.
take everything that she had because that's the only mother I had. Right.
Yep. So, language for you, for your inner child, that could be very powerful is like I'm doing hand on the heart, hand on the belly right now, is you talking
Mhm.
to your inner child and letting her know, I deeply understand why we have held on to everybody no matter their bad behavior. But it's safe now to let go because, sweet little girl, you have grown up me always, always, always. And if anybody leaves us because they can't handle that we're pointing out that they're treating us poorly, that they can't, like a grown up, say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that, or thank you for pointing that out, or I'm sorry, I need to do better in that regard. Please forgive me. If they can't do that, then they probably can't be a good friend to you. And you can be a good friend to them. But that becomes the question. Roma, it's a question I've learned I must ask in my personal life. And I've accepted, and it might sound arrogant. It's not an arrogance. It's growing from low self worth to a confidence when it comes to relating instead of a sense of lack with people, of me honoring for myself. There's a lot of people that would like to be my friend. And I say no to a lot of those people in recognition of they don't have the stuff to show up and be a very good friend to me. And I get to look for that as a grown woman. I get to discern that. I get to assess for that. Because it's one thing to be lonely when we are singular, it's infinitely lonelier when we are together with someone feeling lonely.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And there's an embodiment aspect to this too, right? How do I feel with people that are actually safe and
Mhm.
can go to these depths with me, or at least can honor my depths, as opposed to folks that I'm coaching outside of my my business to
Mhm.
be better people, which maybe
Yeah,
isn't part of my job.
that's right. Well, the difference there is that people are showing up to you saying, help me be a better person.
Mhm.
If everyone lived like that, you wouldn't have called me with this dilemma. But that's kind of what you're learning how to deal with inside of yourself is that we're sharing the planet with lots of people who don't value betterment or growth or self development or personal responsibility. And nobody's ever told us directly, what the hell do we do with that? It's hard. You haven't used this word, but I want to ask, do
Mhm.
you feel guilty if you let yourself sort of assess or discern what might not be great about somebody?
I feel guilty not giving people the space to grow, even if that means, even if I'm not giving them the space to grow because they're hurting me.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And it tells me that there's a belief system there that needs some tweaking because guilt's about feeling wrong, doing something wrong. And that's there to motivate us to, like, if I step on your foot, that guilty feeling is there in the human condition for me to say, oh my goodness, are you okay? Did I break your toe? Do you need some ice? Like, that's part of how we are biologically wired to be tribal and social and connected. But if you believe by having some boundaries or some limits or by saying no to someone's bad behavior that's thrown in your direction at you, then you're having like an over guilt.
Mm.
And that comes from that childhood dynamic of losing a parent and then having to be parentified and kind of absorb whatever your mom was offering or going through.
Mhm.
And you don't have to absorb that anymore for people. So it might be some space to look at and to journal and go, what's going on in my belief system there? That I believe I have to be the giver of space for them to heal. They can still grow, they can grow away from you. A few years back, I broke up with a woman that I was trying to be friends with because she just could not hear the message that she just kept throwing chaos my way. I said, I no, I need peace and I can support you, but you're bringing some chaos. And I asked her to adjust that. She really couldn't and wouldn't. So at a point, I said, like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. It's very hard to do. But it was also an important moment in my life to say, hey, I matter. And I have to be the one that manages these boundaries. And I have to be the one that teaches people how to treat me. And if I ask once and I ask twice, and I'm getting this vibe of like, whatever, I'm going to keep doing this no matter how it feels to you, then I have to help myself find the space that I need.
You know, what's also crazy is this is what I train people, right? I teach people every day. You train people how to treat you,
Hmm.
right? So I can send the message,
Hmm.
but walking the walk is infinitely harder when I'm trying to.
Yep. Well, and it's identity, right? It's like you've walked around cultivating this identity of like, I am captain, helper, captain, space holder.
Mhm.
So if you
Yeah.
start going, hey, wait a minute, you lashed out at me, it's not okay with me, then you're going to change at the level of identity. This is part of why we don't change some of this stuff, or part of why we feel so much resistance or so much guilt that just keeps us being the same instead of allowing for change and growth. Like, the real truth is, like, the first few times you do this, you're probably going to feel like a big old a-hole. Your inner child is going to be like, what are you doing? Like, you're going to have the reputation of being some kind of hard ass.
Mhm.
Like, who even are you? And so it takes some real being able to, what I call, stay with yourself,
Mhm.
and you hold you, and you give yourself the healthy messaging. This is long overdue. It is not okay for us to continue sweeping things under the rug when they happen right in front of our face. We get to name that. And this is very important based on how we were raised.
I'm thinking, and obviously I'm going back to the academic part of me,
Mhm.
that this protector self, if I gave the red flag eraser a little bit more room to maybe not erase all the red flags and
Mhm.
just notice it, but not, you know, turn away from self-loyalty.
Well, you might have to change the name of it.
I might
So
have to change the
I'm
name.
saying this very intentionally.
Yeah.
Protector. What is this part? Isn't protecting you from shit.
No, no. It's protecting me from the loss of relationships that end up hurting me. So it's not
There you
actually
go.
protecting me. So
Hmm.
where else can that energy be used more positively if I refocus it?
There you go.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Feels like I can breathe. I can feel like I can do a little twirl in my dress in happiness.
Well,
um,
there you go. So
yeah.
that's a good cue in you, because I think, for lack of a better way to say it, when you give yourself a healthy sort of right message, it has a twirling the skirts
Mhm.
feeling to you.
Mhm.
So notice when you feel tight with people, like maybe tight in your chest,
Mhm.
constricted, kind of glued to the chair. That might be its own cue to say, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Mhm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
All right, so you tell me, what are you going to take away from this call? How was this for you?
I think it's really helpful to be able to take things that I know and I understand intellectually and apply it to myself and give myself the space to know and acknowledge. It's been very recent that I've acknowledged that I'm a trauma survivor, if you will. I mean, losing a parent is a capital T, but I was always like, oh, it's no big deal. I was only 4, no big deal. I don't need anything. But all of that was a red flag eraser of myself, right? And
Yes.
as I'm getting older, I'm noticing how intensely I have been impacted as a child and as an adult in romantic relationships and career relationships and my relationship with myself. And I think being able to acknowledge it and not, shove it in a corner, but acknowledge it and know that it's a part of me, but I have the ability to discern now as an adult which direction I go and what my behaviors are and how I set up my relationships. And I'm not this little girl who just needs to hang on to the one parent she has left with dear life for dear life. Um, and there is some trust in the universe that when I start having healthy boundaries, that new people will show up and I get to form new relationships and set new kind of social circles. All of that feels a lot more exciting, but it definitely will be a daily, if not some days hourly thing that I need to intentionally remember.
Yeah, I promise you it'll get easier. It will integrate into who you are, and the discernment we talked about today will become its own protector.
Mhm. A real protector this time.
Yes, 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 yes. And if you need this little piece, it's like, so I live in the Rocky Mountains, right? And so I'm surrounded by bear and moose and animals, and I think a lot about how they meet each other in the forest, in the mountains. And I don't think there's an animal out there that meets another animal on the road with the kind of openness we shared that we meet people with. So I look at animals a lot as a source of permission. It's like, it's not mean, it's not cruel, it's not close-hearted, it's not dark, it's not skepticism, it's not negativity. It's every animal on this planet gets to assess and discern when it comes across another animal, are you safe for me? in a way that is very, very natural and reasonable. And you get to do that too.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. It
Thank,
normalizes it for sure.
that's right. That's right. That's right. Such good work, madam. I can tell how hard you've worked on yourself and how much you must be such a boon to helping people that come to you. Thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you, Nikki.
You are so welcome. It was so nice to connect with you today. I'm sending light and love. I want to very much thank Roma for being willing to come on the call-in show. Anytime anyone decides to share themselves in such a way, in vulnerability, you are helping so many people that you will never meet, that you will never shake their hands. You might not ever see their smile or their eyes or their face, but you are helping because you're asking a question that somebody else out there needed. Maybe they didn't even know that they needed that question. If you would like to come chat with me and be a part of this call-in show that we've started, please come to emotionalbadass.com/call. Fill out our little questionnaire to see if you are right for the call-in show. Light and love. I am an emotional badass. You are an emotional badass. And together with Roma, we are where Moxie meets mindful. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll see you right here next time for a brand new episode. Maybe even with you. Light and love. Bye bye.